They invited the class loser to the 10-year reunion to mock her. Her Apache Arrival froze everyone. The invitation was sent as a joke. At least, that's how they meant it. 10 years after graduation, the alumni committee of Ridgeway High added one last name to the reunion list, a name most of them hadn't spoken out loud in a decade. Some had to read it twice. Others laughed when they saw it. Emily Carter, the so-called class loser. Back in high school, Emily was invisible at best and a punchline at worst. She wore thrift store jackets, carried borrowed textbooks, and kept her head down like she was apologizing for existing. While others planned prom nights and college futures, Emily worked late shifts at a diner just to keep the lights on at home. And the class never let her forget it. Whispers followed her through hallways. Jokes landed on her desk in permanent marker. Teachers looked past her. Students stepped around her like she was furniture. By senior year, most people only remembered Emily Carter as the girl who never spoke, never fought back, and never fit in. So when the reunion committee, led by the same people who once made her life miserable, decided to invite her, it wasn't out of kindness. It was curiosity and cruelty. They imagined her arriving late, dressed poorly, still awkward, still small. They pictured sympathetic smiles, fake concern, maybe a few backhanded compliments. It would be nostalgic, they said, a harmless laugh at how little some people change. The email was sent, and then forgotten. What none of them knew, what not a single person at Ridgeway High could have imagined, was that Emily Carter hadn't disappeared after graduation. She had transformed. 10 years earlier, on the day of graduation, Emily didn't attend the after-party. She didn't take photos with classmates. She didn't even linger on the football field. She walked straight home. That night, while the rest of the class celebrated, Emily packed a single duffel bag and left before sunrise. No goodbye notes, no announcements, just a quiet exit from a life that had never wanted her. What followed wasn't easy. She worked, she trained, she failed more times than she succeeded. But, unlike high school, no one laughed when she fell, because no one was watching. And for the first time, that silence worked in her favor. Emily found structure where there had once been chaos, discipline where there had been fear, purpose where there had been shame. She learned to stand tall. She learned to speak with confidence. She learned that strength didn't come from approval. It came from endurance. And over the years, the girl who once avoided eye contact learned to stare straight ahead, unflinching. By the time the reunion invitation arrived in her inbox, Emily Carter was no longer the person they remembered. She read the message once. She smiled, not with bitterness, not with anger, but with something calmer. Clarity. She knew exactly why they had invited her, and for the first time in her life, she didn't decline. The reunion was held at a lakeside venue just outside town. Polished wood floors, string lights, name tags printed in gold lettering. Old classmates arrived in luxury cars, wearing tailored suits and designer dresses, rehearsing stories about promotions, startups, and perfect families. The atmosphere buzzed with comparison. Who aged best? Who succeeded most? Who failed quietly? At the entrance, the sign read, Ridgeway High, Class of 15, a decade later. Inside, laughter echoed, glasses clinked, old hierarchies slowly reformed like muscle memory. And then someone asked the question, did Emily Carter actually show up? A few people chuckled. Someone checked the guest list. She RSVP'd yes, someone said, surprised. No way, another replied. I thought that was a joke. They waited. Some scanned the parking lot through the glass doors, half hoping, half dreading the sight of her. They imagined an awkward wave, a hesitant step inside, the same timid girl, unchanged by time. Minutes passed. The band played softly. Then, far off in the distance, a sound cut through the evening. Not music, not laughter, a deep mechanical thrum. At first, it was barely noticeable, just a vibration in the air, like distant thunder rolling over the lake. Conversations faltered. A few heads turned toward the windows. The sound grew louder, heavier, unmistakable. Someone frowned. Is that a helicopter? The windows began to rattle. Outside, the water on the lake rippled violently, waves crashing against the dock as wind tore through the venue's grounds. Napkins flew, decorations shook, panic flickered in people's eyes. And then they saw it, a dark silhouette descending from the sky, twin rotors slicing the air, aggressive, controlled, powerful. An Apache attack helicopter hovered low over the clearing beside the venue, its noise dominating the night like a living force. The noise was deafening now. People covered their ears, phones dropped, conversations died instantly. The band stopped playing. The reunion froze. No one spoke. No one moved. Because painted clearly on the side of the aircraft, illuminated by landing lights, was a single name: Carter. And as the helicopter touched down, dust and leaves swirling violently around it, one thought struck everyone at the exact same time.
The rotors slowed, but the silence inside the reunion hall was even louder. No one spoke. No one laughed now. Dust settled over polished shoes and expensive dresses as the Apache's engines powered down. The aircraft sat there like a predator at rest, sleek, armored, unapologetic. The kind of machine people only saw in documentaries or war footage, not at a high school reunion. Then the cockpit canopy opened. Every eye locked onto it. A ladder dropped from the side, metal clanging softly against the landing gear. For a moment, nothing happened. The anticipation was unbearable, like the pause before an explosion. And then she appeared. Boots first. Heavy, military-issued, stepping down with calm precision. She moved like someone who knew exactly how much space she occupied and didn't apologize for any of it. Emily Carter descended, slowly, deliberately. She wore a flight suit, dark and fitted, with combat patches stitched across the chest and shoulders. Her posture was straight, her movements efficient. The wind tugged at her hair, now neatly tied back, revealing a face that was sharper, stronger, unmistakably confident. This was not the girl they remembered. This was not the girl who avoided lockers and lowered her eyes. This woman looked like she commanded the sky. As her boots touched the ground, the crew chief saluted. She returned it without hesitation. That single motion shattered the last illusion anyone inside the venue was holding on to. People rushed to the windows. Phones came up, hands shaking, mouths hung open in disbelief. That's her? Someone whispered. No way, another said. That can't be Emily Carter. But it was. She removed her helmet, tucking it under her arm, and turned toward the building, toward the people who once decided she was nothing. And she walked forward. Inside the venue, panic turned into confusion. Old cliques dissolved instantly. The confident smiles people wore just minutes earlier collapsed into awkward uncertainty. No one knew where to stand anymore or who they were supposed to be. The doors opened. Emily stepped inside. The room fell completely silent. Every conversation died mid-sentence. Even the staff stopped moving. The string lights overhead hummed faintly, casting warm light over a room that suddenly felt very, very small. She paused just inside the doorway, not because she was nervous, but because she wanted them to look. And they did. Her name tag hung neatly over her chest. Emily Carter. No titles, no explanation. She didn't need them. Her eyes moved across the room, calm and observant, recognizing faces that once filled her with dread. The football captain who used to shove her books aside, the prom queen who laughed when others mocked her clothes, the reunion organizer standing frozen, pale, unable to meet her gaze. Emily didn't smile. She didn't scowl either. She simply nodded, a quiet acknowledgement, and walked in. Every step echoed. Someone finally broke the silence. So, you fly helicopters now? The voice was shaky, forced casualness layered over panic. Emily stopped. She turned slowly, her expression composed. Yes, she said. One word, clear, confident. No bragging, no explanation, just truth. The man laughed awkwardly. Wow, that's impressive. She tilted her head slightly. It's my job. That was all. She continued walking. The irony wasn't lost on her. 10 years ago, she used to map escape routes through these same kinds of rooms, calculating how to avoid eye contact, how to disappear before the joke started. Tonight, the room was mapping her. People stepped aside instinctively, creating a path without realizing it. Not out of respect at first, but out of instinct. Something about her presence demanded space. At the bar, a former classmate stared at her drink, then looked up. Emily, do you remember me? Emily studied her face. Yes, she replied. The woman swallowed. I'm glad you came. Emily held her gaze for a moment. So am I. And for the first time, that statement carried weight. Across the room, the reunion organizer, the same woman who once circulated cruel rumors about Emily, whispered urgently to another committee member. She wasn't supposed to be like this. What do you mean? This wasn't the plan. They had planned for awkwardness. They had planned for pity. They had planned for quiet humiliation. They hadn't planned for power. They hadn't planned for an Apache helicopter landing outside. They hadn't planned for the realization slowly settling into everyone's bones. Emily Carter didn't come to be mocked. She came because she had nothing left to prove. Emily finally stopped near the center of the room. She looked around once more, and then, calmly and evenly, she spoke. It's good to see everyone, she said. No sarcasm, no resentment, just a steady voice that carried. I won't stay long. I'm on duty. A murmur rippled through the crowd. On duty, as if she could leave at any moment and return to a world far bigger than this room. I just wanted to say hello and to thank you. People exchanged confused glances. For reminding me, Emily said, why I left. The words weren't sharp, they were precise, and they landed harder than any insult ever could. She turned toward the doors, and that's when someone laughed. A short, nervous laugh, the kind that tries to reclaim control. Guess the class loser really showed us, huh? The room froze again. Emily stopped. Slowly, she turned back. Her eyes met his, steady, unblinking. No, she said quietly. I just survived long enough to outgrow this place. Silence swallowed the room whole, and as she walked back toward the exit, every single person there understood something they never had before. They hadn't invited Emily Carter to mock her. They had invited her back just in time to realize they were the ones who never left.
Emily reached the doorway when a familiar voice stopped her. Emily, wait. She paused, not because she had to, but because she chose to. She turned slowly, already knowing who it was. Ryan Mitchell. Once Ridgeway High's golden boy, quarterback, class favorite, the kind of person teachers trusted and students admired. The kind of person who could destroy someone's reputation with a joke and never face consequences for it. 10 years ago, Ryan had laughed the loudest. Now, his voice trembled. I think people deserve to know, he said, gesturing vaguely toward the Apache outside. You don't just fly something like that by accident. A few heads nodded. Phones came up again. Curiosity replaced shock. Emily studied him for a moment. Then she turned fully back toward the room. If you want to know, she said calmly, I'll tell you. No drama. No performance. Just facts. She didn't stand at a podium. She didn't need one. Emily rested her helmet on a nearby table, the dull thud echoing louder than expected. The insignia on the side caught the light, sharp, official, undeniable. I enlisted 3 weeks after graduation, not because I wanted glory, because I needed structure. Her voice was steady, but the room felt heavier with every word.
I failed my first physical test, almost quit during training, was told more than once that I didn't belong. A quiet ripple passed through the crowd. She let it sit. Funny thing is, Emily continued, that part felt familiar. Some people looked down. She spoke of sleepless nights, of drills that pushed her past exhaustion, of instructors who didn't care where she came from, only whether she could endure. And I learned something. In the military, nobody cares who you were, only who you are when it counts. That's when she mentioned the Apache. I didn't choose it because it's intimidating. I chose it because it's unforgiving. Every mistake matters. Every decision has weight. She looked around the room. So does every word. No one laughed now. Ryan swallowed. So you're a pilot? Yes. Combat? Emily nodded once. The room shifted. This wasn't fantasy anymore. This wasn't a viral moment. This was real. She didn't describe battles in detail. She didn't need to. She spoke of responsibility, of protecting ground teams she'd never meet, of staying calm when alarms screamed and instincts begged her to panic. When you're flying cover, fear doesn't get a vote. The words echoed. A woman near the back raised her hand hesitantly. Why come back, after everything? Emily considered the question. Because running away isn't the same as moving forward, and because I wanted to see if this place still had power over me. She paused. It doesn't. Then came the moment no one expected. I didn't land here for show, Emily said, her tone changing, not colder, just firmer. That helicopter outside, it's not ceremonial, it's operational. The room stiffened. I received a mission update while en route. I leave shortly. Phones lowered. Reality hit. Ryan took a step back. You're serious? I always am, Emily replied. She picked up her helmet. This reunion was 10 years overdue, but closure doesn't require forgiveness. She scanned the room one last time, just understanding. As she turned toward the door again, the prom queen from years past spoke up, voice cracking. I'm sorry. It wasn't loud, it wasn't polished, but it was real. Emily stopped. She didn't turn around. I know, she said quietly. And that, somehow, was worse and kinder than anger. Outside, the night air roared back to life again as the Apache's systems powered up. Crew members moved with urgency. Red lights blinked. The machine was waking. Emily walked toward it without hesitation. Behind her, through the glass, her former classmates watched, not as judges this time, but as witnesses. Witnesses to what happens when someone refuses to stay small. As Emily climbed the ladder, she paused once more, not for them, but for herself. 10 years ago, she had left this town with nothing but uncertainty. Tonight, she left with clarity and purpose. The rotors began to spin faster. Wind tore across the clearing, and as the Apache lifted off, rising into the dark sky, one truth settled heavily over everyone watching. Emily Carter didn't win by proving them wrong. She won by never needing their approval again.
Below it, the reunion venue shrank into a rectangle of light beside a dark lake. The people inside reduced to motionless silhouettes. Emily Carter didn't look back. She never needed to. Inside the cockpit, everything was familiar. The vibration through the frame, the hum of systems, the disciplined chaos of controlled power. Her world narrowed to instruments, airspace, and time. A voice came through her headset. Razor 1, command confirms tasking. You are cleared to proceed. Emily's hands moved with practiced certainty. Razor 1 copies, she replied, proceeding to waypoint. No hesitation, no emotion clouding her voice. This was where she belonged. Below, back at the reunion,
No one spoke for a long time. The laughter that once filled the room felt inappropriate now, childish even. People stood near the windows, watching the helicopter disappear into the distance until it became nothing more than a fading sound. The organizer finally exhaled. "I didn't recognize her," she said softly. No one replied. Because the truth was uncomfortable. They had recognized her. They just hadn't valued her. Somewhere between the lake and the horizon, Emily adjusted altitude. The sky opened wide around her, endless and unjudging. Up here, there were no labels, no rumors, no high school reputations that clung like shadows. Only responsibility, only trust, only the weight of decisions that mattered. Her mind didn't drift to old insults or locker room laughter. It drifted to training fields, instructors who pushed her past breaking points, and teammates who trusted her with their lives. This wasn't revenge. This was consequence. Back at Ridgeway High's reunion, people began to leave early. Conversations were quieter now, less about promotions and houses, more about regret and reflection. Ryan sat alone at a table, staring at his untouched drink. For the first time, he replayed moments he once dismissed as jokes and heard them differently. Across the room, the prom queen removed her name tag and folded it carefully, as if that small act could undo something. It couldn't. But awareness had begun, and that was new. High above them all, Emily received the final confirmation. "Razor 1, ground team entering zone. You are cleared hot if required." Her jaw set. "Copy," she said. The Apache moved into position, guardian in the sky. She wasn't thinking about Ridgeway High. She was thinking about the soldiers below, people who would never know her name, only that someone was watching over them. 10 years ago, no one watched over Emily Carter. Now, she watched over others. As dawn hinted faintly on the horizon, the mission stabilized. The immediate threat passed. Emily maintained her position until relieved. When the call finally came, it was simple. "Razor 1, stand down. Good work." Emily exhaled. "Razor 1 returning to base." The sun rose. And somewhere back in that small town, the reunion ended with no speeches, no group photos, and no triumphant stories to share online. Because nothing they said could compete with what they had witnessed. They invited the class loser to mock her. Instead, they were forced to confront something far more unsettling. They had been wrong. Emily landed at base just as the morning fully broke. Engines powered down. Silence returned. She climbed out of the cockpit and handed off her helmet. Another salute exchanged. Mutual. Earned. As she walked across the tarmac, there was no applause, no audience, and she didn't need one. Because some victories don't echo in gymnasiums. They echo quietly, in self-respect, in purpose, in distance traveled. Emily Carter didn't freeze her classmates because of an Apache helicopter. She froze them because she became undeniable. And as the gates of the base closed behind her, one final truth remained. The girl they tried to break never came back to prove them wrong. She came back to show them how small their world had always been.